Three, two, one. Welcome to Social Disruption, the show that shatters comfort zone, flips the script, and delivers unfiltered truth. I'm your host, Farrah, and joining me is my co-host.
I'm Cheyenne, and together we're here to disrupt the airways with real conversations, no filters, no apologies.
Trigger warning, this is a show where a spine isn't optional and the truth cuts deep. Let's get into it. So before we dive into today's packed show, I want you to meet my amazing co-host who answered my call to disrupt the narrative, Cheyenne. Take a few minutes, tell our listeners who you are.
Absolutely. I am a boundary-pushing conversationalist and proud Gen Xer.
Yeah.
Born in California, but I grew up in Queens, New York. So I am a latchkey kid. I drank hose water and I came home when the streetlights came on. For the past 20 plus years, I have dedicated my career to the nonprofit sector, a field you don't go into for the paycheck, if you know what I'm saying. If you had asked 8-year-old Cheyenne, what do you want to be when you grow up? She would have told you 3 things: a professional roller skater, a veterinarian, and a writer. While I'm still holding it out for that roller skating gig, I have spent several years working in Manhattan, and I moved to Connecticut 16 years ago to work in special education and residential treatment. My biggest career takeaway has been that while many people have learned survival skills, no one has taken the time or effort to teach them how to thrive in our society. I've become deeply passionate about helping others, especially underserved populations. However, I have to tell you, my proudest accomplishment in this life is being a mom to 2 amazing boys. They challenge me to be my best self every day. Everything I do is centered around my family and creating a better future for them.
I love it. That was a great bio. Welcome to Social Disruption, Cheyenne. I'm so glad that you're going to be with me for this journey. And I suppose I should tell everyone a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Farrah, wife to a veteran, mother to 2 older daughters with their own babies. I'm not a professional journalist, but I am someone who's watched truth get buried under agenda-driven narratives these past few years. And I've seen voices silenced, stories hidden, and critical thinking replaced with sound bites. But I've also seen something inspiring: the rise of independent media, people hungry for real journalism and authentic conversation. That's why I created Social Disruption. Yes, we'll cover politics, world events, and breaking news, but we're also going to dive into mental health, trauma, addiction, and survival stories, including my own. For the first time, I'll be sharing my personal journey through addiction and abuse because these stories matter. They change lives. They give hope. We're bringing in experts from every field: politics to psychology, entertainment to education. But what really excites me is our upcoming live shows. If you disagree with us, I love this. Don't just rage on social media. Call in. Let's have a real conversation. Remember those? Civil dialogue between people with different views. We've lost that art and we're bringing it back. This show isn't about being right. It's about getting to the truth. Now, I'm curious, Cheyenne, what made you answer my co-host ad? What made you think this is it? This is the show that I want to be a part of?
I have to follow up by saying, and you stated it perfectly, Farrah, the simple answer for me is because staying silent is no longer an option. After our first conversations, when we connected, I thought, this is it. At the core of my being, I value resilience, authenticity, and speaking up. I can be an extreme extrovert. You guys will all learn that. I love connecting with people, diving into those hard conversations, and most importantly, amplifying voices that need to be heard. I am beyond psyched to be partnering with Farrah on Social Disruption. This is about being brave enough to speak your truth and kind enough to listen to someone else's. I cannot wait to shake things up.
I want to make sure our listeners know this is nor a Republican or a Democratic show. We're not going to title ourselves. This show will be Cheyenne and I covering popular and important topics in our world, diving deep into our thoughts, and sharing our unapologetic opinions. We will gather information from our research to provide you then the details for you to form your own thoughts and opinions. We're here to keep it real, raw, and truthful. We encourage open dialogue so everyone is welcome to join the conversation and share their perspective. First, we're going to talk about what's been happening in California with the wildfires. We will review the most up-to-date information as of January 17th, when we're recording this episode. So stay tuned. This is Social Disruption. So these California wildfires, oh my God, they're not just another natural disaster story. From suspicious fire patterns to well-timed insurance cancellation. First, I'd like to review the California current numbers and statistics as of today. And I'm getting these readings from the fire.ca.gov/incidents. The current emergency incidents: 27,799 total emergency responses, 177 wildfires. Get this, 40,696 acres burned. We are at 24 lost souls and 12,105 structures damaged or destroyed. Our prayers go out to the victims, the survivors of these California wildfires. It is such a tragic event. Cheyenne, what's your thoughts?
So I want to put this into perspective for people. What Farrah just said about how many acres has burned, that is the equivalent of 53 football fields. That is more fields than we have NFL teams. So let's just let that sit with us all for a minute. Now, we know people want to talk about facts. Newsom, he wants the facts. So let's talk facts. In 2024, he cut $10 million of funding for fire prevention. The fire hydrant testing from 2024 to 2025 was suspended. They suspended brush removal. Karen Bass cut $17.4 million in funding to the fire department. The San Ynez Reservoir has been closed for repairs, leaving a 117 million gallon water storage complex empty in the heart of the Palisades. The fire chief, she's very focused on DEI, says it's a top priority, and poured more funding into that. Firefighters were fired for not getting COVID vaccines. And State Farm announced, okay, with reason, mind you, why they would not renew 69% of policies in the Pacific Palisades. This was all due to long-term brush risk and poor management. Looting is turning a blind eye to the reality and our political climate. But let's protect the smelt fish, which are bait for other fish. They're also talking about the full home hardening. This can cost as much as $100,000 in addition to these people having to rebuild their homes. Now, remember, they're also still paying their mortgages, their car payments, even though everything has been wiped out. So essentially, it's really starting to feel like a every man, woman, person for themselves situation.
One thing I would like to see, the 1,600 policies that were canceled in the Palisades, I'd like to see on a map where their homes are. Are they some of the ones that were burned even as far back as 2018, 2019? Insurance companies were coming to the state of California proposing to raise premiums. Example, so there was one homeowner that was paying $4,500 a year for their policy. They wanted to raise it up to $18,000 a year. California came back and said, well, no, there's a cap on how much the states will let you charge for insurance. Then the insurance companies came back and said, yeah, but reconstruction rates are sky high with inflation, the building materials, and everything to rebuild a business, a home. Insurance companies then say, you're not going to let us charge more, then we're just going to drop policyholders. And I feel for everyone in this, the policyholders and the insurance companies, because if you're someone that owns your own insurance business, you have employees to pay, you have bills to pay, you have to pay on other policies that are going on while all these disasters are happening. But what's going to happen with these people that do not have policies? How are they going to rebuild in a time when inflation, even though it's down to like 2.7, 2.9% still, the building materials are not coming down quick enough for reconstruction rates to be back to normal, where companies can start picking you back up? What happens to these people? What happens to that land? Also, no one was talking about the amount of animals that have been displaced. Look at all those acres burned. It's insane. I do want to play an audio clip to get your take on it and see what you think.
We pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event,
to rebuild these communities and rebuild them better than they were when we started this fire.
There you heard Gavin Newsom speaking to a journalist about how they pre-positioned 120 fire trucks and other fire prevention 2 days before this happened. Then you hear some other gentlemen talking with reporters that they are going to build back better than before they started the fire. What's your take on Gavin Newsom's statement? Do you think it was just a blunder, or what do you think?
I want to point out a couple of things in the research that I did into this. Now, remember, I was born in California, lived there until I was about 6, San Fernando Valley area, not too far from where all of this is happening. And I remember as a child, we were taught about controlled burns. I looked up and I read through a really rough read, might I add, from the California Wildlife Mitigation Program, their board meetings. They have had propositions of residents having to build fire-resistant homes themselves for years. Where is the proactiveness? There doesn't seem to be any. You had trucks ready and waiting. Questionable. Why then did you hold up trucks that came from other states like Oregon?
Yes.
Citing that they did not have proper smog approval on their vehicles. California. We're concerned about smog. What do we think the black smoke is doing to our air? The other concern was them scooping water out of the ocean, which is literally across the street from where many of these fires started, because salt water is bad for the land. What do we think the fires are doing for the land? And when you talked about these people that don't have, whether their policies were dropped or they did not have it to begin with, if they don't have this and they now have to rebuild, it feels to me like everything is being pushed back on the homeowners to figure it out, look into the full home hardening costs, look into the fire-resistant homes, and I don't even think that we have touched on the smart meters.
I want to read something real quick. This is from Newsweek. Several private insurers have cut coverage in at-risk areas across California in the past 3 years, leaving homeowners scrambling to find options for coverage. As a result, California's FAIR plan, which works as an insurer of last resort in the state, has more than doubled its policies between 2020 and 2024, reaching a total of 452,000 as reported by Cap Radio. Most insurers who have limited their offer in the state mentioned the rising wildfire risk as well as the state regulations as the main reason behind their decision. Unable to increase their premiums to a level that will match their growing risk, companies have decided instead to cut coverage. I want us to figure out, by going through all this research, was this a part of a plan? It seems like Gavin Newsom's been talking a hell of a lot about Smart LA 2.0, bringing into mentioning, Cheyenne, tell us what the smart meters are.
I love that you said that about the Los Angeles or LA County 2.0. That was quite a Freudian slip, as it were. These smart meters, if anybody cares to look into those, were put on many houses out in California. This effort was to help keep track of how much energy you're using in your home to keep you more conscious of your footprint that you are leaving. There are many videos circulating on social media, and trust me, I know social media is not all and everything and the truth. However, interesting to see, homes that have smart meters were burning, homes that did not were left standing, not unscathed, let's be clear, but standing. If you start to look into the smart meters, you will find there have been reports of those meters causing fires prior to this.
I don't know the agency, but they were trying to get that smart meter company to start burying those electric lines because they were causing fires. I hope there is a full investigation done on these fires for the sake of the people that lost their home, that did not have homeowners insurance, but we also want everyone to keep an eye on what's going to happen next. I have another audio clip that I want you to listen to. We're not conspiracy theorists, but I found this kind of weird. I'm going to play this reel of a gentleman that is trying to access his house that was burnt days before. No fires are in the area anymore, and I want you to hear his reaction. See his house that was burnt days before. No fires are in the area anymore of where his home was burnt. And I want you to hear his reaction, Cheyenne, with the cop.
All right, guys. So I came back to see if we could get to my house out here. Let's see what they have to say. Military is about to come speak to me. You guys will hear the truth. How you doing, brother? Good. I live right here. Just want to go to my house.
Fortunately, we can't let anybody through. It's a hard closure
Why is that?
because there's an evacuation order. We can't let anybody through unless you're a contractor, first responder, somebody supporting the first responders.
I'm a contractor and I also live here.
But are you working to support the fire? Like, what do you
I would love to support the fire, but I'm a general contractor.
Do you have potential you're supposed to be here?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So we've been evacuated about almost a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've been homeless, no home. We've noticed that you guys are here, the military.
Right.
There is no fire by my house as I see the fires out. So maybe my house has been burned down already. Maybe it hasn't. At my risk, I want to go there and see it. If I burn down, it's okay. I'm fine with that. Why is that a no?
I don't know the why. I'm just going to tell you that we have orders not to let anybody through.
Can you bring him for a second? I want to ask him a question.
Want to ask him a question?
Yes.
Okay, so we hear a lot of talk of the policies being canceled, a land grab, Smart LA 2.0. The Olympics are coming up in 4 years. We've already heard Gavin Newsom say that he wants to have an LA and what it's great for. Didn't you find it a little bit weird in this reel, Cheyenne, that the military said, if you're not a contractor, you can't be here? Have you ever heard of contractors being on site when there's a fire? What would the contractors be there for?
My favorite part of that clip was when the military gentleman in the background responded, and I quote, I don't know the why. That speaks volumes to me that he does not know the why.
So all these fires that raged, they weren't prepared. Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that when they said they didn't have any water in the hydrants or they had less pressure, it was because LA, in truth, has never seen a devastation like this. So all these hydrants trying to be used at once in pretty much very close areas of proximity to each other, I think that could have caused the low water pressure, some of the hydrants not working very well. But in the same breath, wait a minute, you're California. The biggest threat that you have top priority would be servicing these fire hydrants, making sure they have the pressure. Let's go to the 117 million gallons of water in the Santa Ynez Reservoir that was emptied out a week prior to the fires because of a damaged cover. And in a time when you have 8 months of drought, why would you throw out water because of a cover? No one's going to drink it. It's water that can be picked up and put on fires. I really do think there's something funny going on, as I've never seen someone so happy like Governor Newsom talk the way he's been talking. Have you seen some of the real Cheyenne where he does like a little shoulder back and forth? He's smiling and he's all into it.
A little shoulder wiggle, dancy, dancy. And I love how you say, I smell something fishy, but it's not the schmelt because they're protected.
Buying up properties and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks. We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in.
Did you see that wiggle?
The little shoulder dance. He's excited about something.
And why would he be talking to Josh Green in Maui? Have you looked into Maui lately? I haven't. Have they rebuilt?
This is a great question. I have not. I'm sure that we can pull something up real quick.
Yep, that's what I'm going to do right now. And that's what I'm looking forward to on our show, is that we'll pull up articles and information right from respectable sites in real time, like Newsweek, Associated Press, factchecker.org. As much as we can stay away from a lot of the mainstream media, we're definitely going to be mindful. And of course, X we'll get a lot of information from, because they're all about truth and the community be involved to decrease the amount of misinformation. It says rebuilding is underway in Maui, Hawaii, after wildfires in August 2023 destroyed much of Lahaina. While progress has been made, rebuilding is still a long process. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had cleared most of the debris from residential lots. Crews have almost finished restoring utility access to all impacted lots. As of January 2nd, 2025, 207 building permits had been issued and 4 homes had completed construction. Temporary housing sites are being built above the old neighborhood. They're facing some challenges, like some residents are unhappy and leaving the island. Maui has adopted new rules to restrict development on land with high erosion rates. Just a couple things about Maui, if anyone hasn't caught up, there's a little bit of updates for people that have lost everything. My heart goes out to you. Any way that we can donate, we will. I've donated through TFIL charity that they have. If you're not familiar with TFIL and the Overnight Crew, they're on YouTube, and what they are doing, which I think is tremendous. If anyone buys any of their merch, not just proceeds, they're giving 100% of anything bought through them to the wildfires. But you know what I'm really happy about, Cheyenne? I didn't get a chance to tell you. So I had seen that charity. I messaged Elton on his post, the creator of TFIL. And I said, hey, that's great. I'm glad that you guys are donating to these wildfires. It's so horrible, but if you wouldn't mind, can you set a little money aside for the people of Western North Carolina? There are people currently being evicted out of hotel rooms that FEMA had promised to pay for. Now, some have gotten back in. Glenn Beck and a charity that he's linked to, which is Mercury One, they paid for residents to get their hotel stays extended. And Elton, even if it's just money for some warm clothes for these people, I'm so proud of this. He changed up the whole charity to include Western North Carolina.
Love this. Love this so hard.
I was thrilled. And there's a girl that I'm speaking to. She might come on the podcast. She didn't lose her home, but she's right there, smack dab in the middle. Her hometown's pretty much gone. She may come on to tell us what it was like living through Helene, her experiences, and what's going on currently. But kudos to Elton. If anyone brings up North Carolina, it is not to take away from California at all. It's just to say there is no loss greater than another. Loss is loss. And I know you had some thoughts and feelings about California FEMA versus North Carolina FEMA. So let's roll into that.
I did, absolutely. And what a great segue. If we're talking about donations, I'd like to throw out there Nebo Crossing, NEBO crossing.com. Great charitable organization. 100% of the proceeds funneled right back into that community in Nebo, Morganton, Marion, North Carolina. Interesting that we were talking about the red tape, Farrah. That gentleman was not able to go to his home unless he was a contractor or a first responder. So as we segue into Western North Carolina, I'm not sure if you're aware, probably are. You're more on the up and up than I am sometimes with the news information. They did receive tiny homes. Tiny homes were sent by Home Depot, by the Amish community, I believe, to be temporary housing down to the folks in Western North Carolina in that Asheville area, Nebo, Lake James, Marion, Morganton. They are sitting vacant due to this red tape and code violation issues. I wish that someone could tell us, what are the codes for people freezing and sleeping in tents on the grounds? Which is safer, a tent with an open flame heater in it or an insulated shed? State building regulations are forcing people to hire certified engineers to come in, take things apart, bring them up to code fully with money they do not have, because again, similar to the people out in California, they're all paying for mortgages and current payments on things that no longer exist. When did we, the people, become so insignificant?
I agree. The reason to talk about both California and North Carolina is because a lot of people were also talking about the land grab in North Carolina. The way they lost their home by flood and mudslides, they didn't have that type of insurance either. It just makes you wonder when these things happen. Is it a free for all for our politicians and elites to make money? What we've seen these last 4 years is we've been put in these corners as remember who you are. One of Biden's remarks that he made on his outgoing address, he mentioned there was going to be a new age of oligarchy. The term means a form of government in which power rests with a small number of people. These people may or may not be distinguished by one or several characteristics such as nobility, fame, wealth, education, corporate, religious, political, or military. Throughout history, power structures considered to be oligarchies have often been viewed as, and this is what I underline to you, often viewed as coercive, relying on public obedience or oppression to exist. If you can make everyone need, you have them under control. These people lose their fire insurance, their flood insurance, therefore their homes are gone. I don't know. Do you have $100,000 in your bank account right now, Cheyenne, that if you needed to go build a tiny home for yourself, you could do that? I know I don't.
Do not.
Exactly. So what happens when you had to stay at a hotel for a couple weeks, starting to get a little hard on your bank account there? Hey, we need to find a home. Well, we're not giving you a break because your home burnt down. We need first, last, and security. Plus, you need to pay all these deposits on your utilities. Or if you're going to buy another house. Again, we're not giving you a break. It's 10% down. We need to still check your credit. You're making this a difficult process. I saw a reel where a realtor in California was getting approached by people who needed a place to live. This one family lost everything, found a place, $30,000 a month. They put their bid in. They got outbid by somebody offering $50,000. Look at the kind of people come out of the woodwork when these things happen. You didn't take the 30. This family came there first and it met your bid. You didn't ask for more. Where's the heart? What do you think of all of this?
I would like to quote CNC Music Factory from 1990 here as things that make you go, it's very, very telling of the shift that our country has taken. It's deplorable. It's unimaginable. The folks who have lost everything, regardless of what your standing was prior to. I have many friends out in California who have poured everything that they have into their homes. And I have the same in North Carolina. They have poured money into their homes, into their businesses. And then for our government to look at them and say, you got to figure it out or sell the land. As you said, Farrah, 100K right now, I'll give it to you to walk out of here. And if that's all you're getting and you don't have anything else, you're taking the money.
Exactly. These people in Western North Carolina, they're not stacked with money. It's a small town. Residents' ancestors came from there. It's Appalachia. Usually places like that, it's ancestral land. Their pop-up and their pop-ups pop-up owned it. Let me give everyone a rundown of current statistics regarding North Carolina. According to recent data, 126,000 homes were destroyed. 104 people killed. They're still searching through a lot of the rubble because of freezing temperatures, which makes it tough with remain recovery, and $60 billion in damages sustained in Western North Carolina. That's insane. We would love to hear your story, whether it's California, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. Please email us at socialdisruptionpod@gmail.com. Let's move on to a recent victory in the food industry, which I'm happy about. Should have happened a long time ago. The FDA bans Red Number 3. What's your thoughts? I'm excited. It's a start.
Listen, I'm thrilled. I am a huge RFK Jr. supporter. I think he has been warning us for years about the concerns with food dye. This has been banned in other countries. We're still using it. What I did find interesting, I'm going to reference the 90s again, but this was banned from the use in cosmetics in the United States back in 1990. This was due to the evidence that that dye is carcinogenic at high doses. However, it does remain one of the 9 synthetic dyes approved for use in food products. So the FDA is kind of like, it's fine in small doses, but more than 3,000 products contain this dye. I'm fully on board with banning this, and I'm praying that he gets his confirmation to be appointed as our Health and Human Services Secretary. I want him to speak for the people. As a mom with 2 kids, Farrah, I know your kids are older than mine. My younger son has ADHD, executive functioning disorder, and sensory processing disorder. We've completely changed his diet because our food additives have a lot to do with that behavior. I know that they're saying that they have until January 18th of 2028. So that's a pretty long push for them to figure out how to get that dye out of the foods.
The ban removes it from the list of approved color additives in foods, dietary supplements, and oral medicine, such as cough syrups. More than 3 decades ago, the FDA declined to authorize use of Red Number 3, as you said, in cosmetics and its externally applied drugs because a study showed it caused cancer when eaten by rats. I'm hoping the next one to go is the yellow number 5, 6, red number 40, because we need to really focus on if other countries are not allowed to have these nasty cancer-causing unhealthy additives and ingredients in. Why does the USA need to have it? Even Vladimir Putin makes sure that there is no GMOs used in Russia for any of the food. If he can do that, we should be able to do that.
If you look at some of the videos that RFK Jr. has been posting, showing the difference in cereals that are made from the same production factory that are sold here in the United States versus over in Europe or right up in Canada. The colors of the cereal are completely different because they are stricter on what they allow to be put in their foods. And we have tried to make foods more fun for kids to eat. How about we focus on being healthy?
Yes, ma'am. And if your kid argues with you about what to eat over the dinner table, then you're not disciplining your child enough. It shouldn't be that you get these nasty cereals and snacks just to make them happy or so they don't cry in the store and throw a fucking fit.
Right. And what was the rule when you were growing up, Farrah? Mine was we all eat together. You eat what's on the plate. If you didn't eat what you were given, you weren't getting anything else later. And you might end up seeing that plate again for breakfast the next morning.
If I threw a fit in the grocery store, I'd have my ass whooped. There is no way I ever said no to my parents. Pardon me. I said no one time to my mother. And it was the last time that I ever did. I learned real quick. Parents are weaker towards their kids. Their kids are rolling the household. But regardless, you should want your kid to eat healthy.
And RFK Jr. is they what? As Farrah and I sit here and talk about this, isn't Republicans versus Democrats. We all know the history of his family and what he stands for, but he is tired of it. He's a father. He's a grandfather. He wants to make sure that all of the people in his life, as we all should, are eating healthy and responsibly and taking care of our bodies. And this is the first step towards us seeing some real changes with how the FDA does things. And I am thrilled about it.
I'm loving RFK. I think he's going to do wonders for the health industry. Our kids need to get healthier and stronger. 70% of young men do not qualify to get into the military. Do you remember in high school, our young men, they were running track, they were lifting weights, they looked healthy, they were strong. We've fallen away from those standards. I don't know her through in and through out, but Cheyenne, I give her kudos for the type of household that she runs. Her kids are strong. They play instruments, they play sports, they know chores, they eat together. I really feel that the family unit has fallen off the past couple years. Parents just want to throw a game or to babysit them. Remember when we used to play outside in the woods? You rode your bikes. You didn't come in till the sun went down. You caught lightning bugs. You used your imagination. I hope with this new administration, along with RFK, we get the food healthier, to get the kids healthy, to get the parents healthy as well, because our generation isn't looking so hot either.
We need that core American family unit again. We need to get that back. People have become complacent, and you're absolutely right. My son is a 9th grader. He's a freshman. He's getting ready to be 15 years old. He has played lacrosse for the last 6 years. He is in band. He also joined CAP. For those of you who don't know, that is Civil Air Patrol. We are big supporters of our military. We back the men and the women in blue. We need to bring back American family values. And I am very hopeful that seeing things, even something like food additives changing, makes that able to happen. I'm very excited and hopeful about that. American family values. Get to the dinner table, eat together. Don't just ask, how was your day? Good, okay, fine. Get into it, dive into it. Ask them, what was the favorite part of your day today? What was the worst part of your day today? What was something strange or unusual that happened today? These conversations need to happen. All problems can be solved at the kitchen table. That's 100% accurate.
No matter where you come from, how you live your life, in general, the family unit needs to come back. Let's get into something else that's been a topic is the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal.
Oh, yes.
As of January 19th, Israel and Hamas commenced a ceasefire agreement resulting in the release of hostages and prisoners. Hamas freed 3 Israeli women, Emily Damari, Romy Gonen, and Doran Steinbrecher, who had been held captive for 15 months. In exchange, Israel released 90 Palestinian prisoners. The agreement, mediated by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, includes a phased plan where Hamas will release 33 hostages over 6 weeks, with Israel reciprocating by freeing over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. The next group of Israeli hostages is scheduled for release on January 25th. While this development brings hope, the fate of the remaining 94 hostages remains uncertain, and efforts continue to secure their release. This is a long-awaited hostage deal. The deal would also allow hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians to return to the remains of their homes in Gaza. I'm happy to hear this. Your thoughts?
I think if it brings hostages home, I am on board with that, of course. But I don't know that I trust Hamas. We have Biden trying to take credit, Trump trying to take credit.
I was just going to talk
right?
about.
I mean, listen, most of us level-headed Americans know that President Trump is back.
We will make America great again.
He's coming in hot, and that makes folks uneasy, especially those who seek to do harm to Americans. Because as President Trump said, and I quote, all hell will break loose.
And we said, bye-bye.
Plus, we already know that with Witkoff, who traveled to Qatar, was the one who strongly encouraged, using my air quotes here, Farrah, Netanyahu to finalize that ceasefire. Anytime someone is held captive overseas or someone is held captive in another area, the goal should always be to get them home. This, sadly, was not made a priority by our current administration. And that is what bothers me, that the focus was on demanding Israel withdraw from Gaza. Bring those hostages back to their homes, to their families, to their homeland.
I was watching Tim Pool earlier. He did a culture war debate with 2 liberal Democratic, and he had some Republican friends of his on there, and they were talking about the Israel and Hamas situation. I was happy to see they all agreed that it was a unification of both parties. Saying Biden didn't have anything to do with it, I will say maybe he had a little, but do I think that that was the driving force of them coming to the table? No, I got to agree with you. Trump saying you better have this done before my inauguration day or all hell will break loose. It doesn't mean he's going to drop nuclear bombs on the country, but he's just trying to get a strong point across. So just take it as that and move the fuck on. It's either they get it done or they're going to pay for it.
Don't get into a pissing match about it, gentlemen. They've now agreed. Let's make sure that plans are in place to ensure that it sticks this time. We want all of those hostages back on their own soil, period.
When Trump gets in front of a podium, whether you like him or not, he is strong. And just like his big campaign driving force was, I want peace through strength. And he gave them an ultimatum. But again, I do feel it was a bipartisan deal.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Our country has been divided enough. Let's all get on the same page of the same book here, people.
And again, that's what social disruption is going to be doing, uniting people with different views. One thing real quick before we move on to our next topic, I wanted to go over some numbers for people that may have forgot what that October 7th attack entailed. There were around 1,200 people killed in Israel, 251 hostages taken in Gaza. Number of Palestinians killed in Gaza, over 46,000. This figure from the Gaza Health Ministry does not distinguish between combatants and civilians, but the ministry says more than half of the dead were women and children. Number of Palestinians wounded in Gaza, over 109,000. Number of militants, the Israeli military says it has killed over 17,000. The military has not provided evidence to support the claim. Number of Israeli soldiers killed since October 7th, 2023, 840. Number of rockets fired at Israel from Gaza since October 7th, 2023 is over 10,000. For the sake of the carnage and chaos, let's just agree that both administrations made this all come together, and let's leave it at that. These people are finally coming home. The blood has spilt enough. I understand that civilians, women and children died. I get what the protesters on our college campuses were trying to say, but you also have to fight back to make sure it never happens again. We don't want citizens to ever be killed in war. But we also know Hamas were hiding within the civilians. War is always devastating. There is no winner. There is no loser. It is just loss, period.
Could not agree with you more on that point, Farrah. And I think what we all need to remember are the senseless tragedies that occur, not only within our own country, but in our world. We are trying to ensure that there is peace and harmony in the world, and taking credit or getting into arguments or saying it was my side or it was your side that is responsible, that is a losing battle, in my opinion. We need to make sure that human life is the priority in our society, and we have lost sight of that, sadly. And I'm really hopeful we can get back on track with you, and I can start to bring people together to discuss these things in respectful, responsible, and a safe space.
100%. That leads us into our next topic. Today, that the episode drops, is the inauguration of our 47th president, President Donald J. Trump. Whether you like him or you hate him, the man is a businessman, not a politician. And let's hope that these next 4 years are going to be a lot better than the last 4 years. Cheyenne, a woman with 2 boys, going to school, running a household, a job, living the everyday kind of American dream. How has these last 4 years affected you?
For me, the whole picture of the last 4 years has been a fiscal failure, failed economic policies, raiding the Medicare program to fund radical spending programs, Biden proclaiming that he beat Medicare, whatever the fuck that means. The student loan forgiveness, that's not a thing. All that was done is that loans were transferred, which places the burden of loans onto the backs of the working class taxpayers. That is me. Our borders being left open, leaving us vulnerable, as evidenced by all of the illegal immigrants and the crimes, including rapes and murders, the inflation rate. Now, I want to quote my son here, Chayton, my 9th grader, soon to be 15-year-old son. He wrote a paper back in September. This is what started my son's high school career here in our town in Connecticut. This is what he said, and I'm going to quote him here. Our administrative leaders need to put into place an equalizer. Instead of letting the rich get richer and the poor stay poorer, there needs to be a sense of equality in how essential items are priced fairly for all levels of home income. We are paying here in my home, on average, for groceries, $400 a week for 2 adults and 4 kids. Now, compared to 2019, when according to my BJ's receipts, this same order was around $175 per week. Where is the accountability to uphold their oath of office of Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8? That states, quote, I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. We have all been forced to make hard decisions between paying for electricity, propane or oil, paying mortgage on time, and grocery shopping. All of these essential human needs should never be an issue for 2 able-bodied adults who work full-time. The problem is the costs keep rising, but no one's earning any more money. Now, we used to be able to go on 1 vacation per year. I don't think that that's asking for much. But over the past 4 years, we have watched everything rise and rise and rise, including my anxiety. State Senator Rob Sampson out of Wolcott, Connecticut, he said in a statement on August 1st of 2024, related to our only choice for electricity in our area, Connecticut families are reeling, and the staggering electrical rate increase that includes a public benefits charge should be the last straw. Once again, it is the responsible ratepayers who will bear the burden. When is enough enough? And I say to my friend Rob that I recognize when somebody is calling out for help, the majority of us, regardless of what state you live in, we have been crying for help. Why is that not enough?
I completely understand where you're coming from. I agree that the economic struggles many of us are facing have become overwhelming. The rising cost of living, the financial burden placed on working class taxpayers, and the increasing gap between wages and essential expenses, like you said, groceries, energy, healthcare. They're undeniable concerns. Your point about the government's fiscal policies, including the student loan forgiveness program, is valid because it often feels like the working class is shouldering the weight of decisions that don't directly benefit us. The inflationary pressures are real, and it's disheartening to see how families like mine, like yours, are being forced to make tough choices just to get by. I appreciate the perspective that your son, Chayton, brought up. I mean, he's a smart kid. He speaks to a desire for fairness, something we all want in our society where no one should have to choose between necessities. The frustration over broken promises and rising cost is palpable, and it's clear. This system is not working for so many hardworking families. It's a wake-up call that we need a more effective and accountable government to serve the people, not just political interest. I share your concern 100%. We're all crying for help. It just seems we're unheard, and it's time for real change. A little off topic, but do you remember when Donald Trump won the election and he was publishing this Bible?
Yes, I did.
Do you know what I loved about that version? To me, it's a powerful reminder of our nation's founding principles. It had the Bill of Rights in it, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence, which is a clear message that we as Americans need to hold our leaders accountable. It's about remembering they work for us, the people who are out there every day working hard to make ends meet. For too long, it feels like politicians have been focused on everything except the real issues facing us regular folks. This past 4 years has been tough. It's striking that it took something like Trump's reelection and his focus on reintroducing the Bible into government to reignite faith in being an American, at least for me. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling. Like we're just here to work, pay taxes, and struggle to get by. But Trump did try to bring attention to the people who work for a living. And that's something that you can't deny. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no denying that his approach was different. And we've seen a lack of transparency and leadership, and people like Trump gave us the hope that the system could be more accountable to the people. At the end of the day, maybe it's time for a president who understands what it's like to really struggle, not just a career politician.
We are the backbone of this country, and nothing in this world is free. As much as people would like us all to believe that things are free, that's not a reality. And the fact that we are all permitting them to put us into these boxes. Anytime we go to the doctor's office, you're checking off boxes. Anytime you go to the voting polls, you're picking a side. It is now time for us to realize that the ants are mightier than the grasshoppers. And I hate to try to reference a children's movie, but hey, people, I'm a mom first. And I'm going to tell you right now that I want my children to be proud to be Americans again. How many Americans voted for the first time? I'm not talking about those who just turned 18 as a rite of passage. I'm talking about, for example, my husband, or soon to be. He has never voted before, and he is 47 years old. He voted for the first time in this election. He had had enough. The Amish, they have never voted in our history before, and they got those buggies a-going. Whoosh, whoosh. Let's go, guys. Move them out. Our voices can be mighty if we could all get on the same page. Do I love every single thing about Donald Trump? No, I do not.
Bullshit.
However, do I agree that we as Americans and America are a business and should be run as such? Yes, I do.
100%. With his presidency, the only thing that all of us should care about is making America first. So how Americans think of Biden's 4 years went. The majority of Americans think the U.S. has lost ground in 6 areas over the past 4 years, including, as you mentioned, immigration, 64% of Americans, federal debt, 67%, the gap between the wealthy and less well off, 60%, the economy, 59%, the U.S. position in the world, 58%, and crime, 51%. Those percentages are the Americans that think Biden dropped off on those topics. These percentages do not lie.
The data doesn't lie. You can't please all the people all of the time, but you can please some of the people some of the time. That is where we need to meet in the middle of the road. We need to stop allowing the powers that be to make us more divisive. Let's come together. I have friends on both sides of the spectrum. I have friends that did vote for Harris. I have friends that did vote for Trump. I can still be friends with them. We can still have relationships. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. And that's the best part about democracy, is we all have a voice. Let's start using it a little bit more.
Yes, I agree. And to put a little more numbers, I'm going to through inflation. So in 2014, our inflation was at 0.8, 2015, 0.7, 2016, 2.1. Now, this is Trump's first presidency. 2018, down to 1.9. 2019, 2.3. 2020, 1.4. Biden gets elected, In 2020, it goes to 7% in 2021, down to 6.5 in 2022, 3.4 in 2023, and 2.9 in 2024. This comes from the government's website. Let's talk about the border. The border has been horrendous the past 4 years. There is upwards of almost 30 million people that have come into this country, not just from Mexico, from Nicaragua, Ecuador, Venezuela. And yes, they are emptying out prisons and asylums. So that's nothing that Trump pulled out of his ass. It's happening, and they were actually transported here in commercial planes to the U.S. Let's talk about the children that have been lost. They're finding them in places like warehouses, working night shift in these god-awful areas just so they can get money to their parents to pay the cartel. Whether you are blue or red, it does not matter. You cannot say that 30 million unvetted people is good for this country. The people that lived in, for example, Ohio, a family would be renting a home, be there for 5 years, renting it for $800 a month, 12 to 15,000 migrants get dumped off. The owner will kick the people out of the house and rent the room, the 3 bedrooms, for $900 to $1,000 each just to make money. You took a home away from an American family. Americans are first. America should be first. We have 44% homeless rate. Look at the 50 blocks of homeless camps in LA. Our country has fallen off the map. We need to make our home nice and pretty and our people taken care of. We don't kick veterans out of hotels, their transitional housing, to let these migrants in. There is nothing wrong with immigration. That's what our country was founded on when they came over on the boat to Ellis Island. The point is, they did it the right way. They came in as we were able to handle it. When you cross a border and the first thing you do is break a law, you don't want to be American. I think the remain in Mexico, there is nothing wrong with that. It is not racist. It's not xenophobic. If you are coming from a country that you want to claim asylum, and it's not about getting free housing and free healthcare, it's because you're scared to death to lose your head in your country, then you can stay in Mexico where it's safe until your vetting process is finished. I'll house an immigrant family that have children to get them off the street. You come here legally. I don't see a veteran being dumped off in his wheelchair on the street, kicked out of his transitional hotel room that he's been living at for 3 years. I'll help, but I'm not going to help when you're kicking our red, white, and blue Americans out of their homes. I spit on my fellow Americans that kicked people out of their homes in Ohio and other states just to rent rooms out to these immigrants to get more money. How dare you? You're part of the problem. You're in America. If you want to take care of these people, there's flights that go to their countries every day. Why haven't you helped the past 10 years when you know what they're dealing with in their country? You should have dropped everything that you had, get a first-class ticket to Venezuela, go find a family, and go support them. That's what you should have done.
Agreed. And let's keep in mind, it is a privilege, not a right, to come to America. Do it the correct way. Do it the legal way. That's how it should be done. That's how this country was founded. It was built on the backs of the immigrants that came over through Ellis Island. A privilege, not a right.
And we are letting in people to run drugs for the cartel.
Open your minds, open your eyes, see what actually is happening. Human beings are not currency. Children are not currency. Things need to change, regardless of which side you are on. I think we can all come together and agree that we demand,
if anything, we demand change to the immigration system. We need to close it down. Everybody wants to talk about jobs in America. Well, we can hire 10,000 border agents, open up a huge vetting facility. And if there's people that want to come here that bring something to this country to help evolve, great. I have seen news reports. This lady with her kids have lived in this apartment for a year and a half and she still hasn't found a job. And now she might have to go back. Are they just sitting and living off taxpayer money? They want to come here. You want the American dream. Well, guess what? I never got $9,000 when I was 18 years old to set out and find my way. I had to work for every fucking penny that I have. To this day, I'm working for every fucking penny that I have. So, well, whoever's selling some American dream that has the word free attached to it, that's not an American dream. None of us are racist. It just needs to be done the right way, and we need the right people to come here. Tito with 50 MS-13 gang tattoos that has a murder rap sheet, he does not need to come here.
Absolutely not. And in addition to that, I want to add to what you said. The American dream was built on the blood, the sweat, and the tears of people who immigrated here legally.
These lady, she found a receipt after this immigrant had gone through the shopping line and the food stamp balance was like $15,000. What American dream is that? Anyway, okay, so we're going to move on. Trump was inaugurated today. Thank God that he was not going to prison. So let's talk a few minutes about Trump's sentencing, which honestly, what a crock of shit. How many millions of taxpayer dollars was used in New York to fund that trial?
You mean witch hunt?
Yes. Okay. People want to say he was guilty of these 34 felonies. First of all, inflating your assets, honey, do you know how many people do that? I mean, come on. The bank that gave him the money even came to the prosecution and said he did nothing wrong. He paid us on time and with interest. But okay, he's guilty, 34 felonies. You then give him a sentence of unconditional. This is what it means. An unconditional discharge is a court-imposed sentence where a defendant is found guilty but not punished. The defendant's record will show the conviction, but they will not face jail time, fines, or probation. Now, in many cases, this usually happens in misdemeanor cases. People just want to get off on the fact America is going to inaugurate the first convicted felon for president. That doesn't even hold backing to me. The man didn't even get prison time, house arrest, fines. The only reason why it's on his record is because they had to do something to justify spending millions of New York taxpayer money that amounted to nothing. The whole point for the trial was they thought it would make Americans vote for Harris.
And might I just throw out there that Gandhi was also arrested and charged. And Jesus, not to turn this religious, but Jesus, he was crucified because he was classified as an enemy of the state and executed for treason. So this has been going on in our history for centuries.
This trial was a farce.
They had to placate the masses, and that's exactly what they did. And it still amazes me that he is referred to as outlandish, obscene, out of control.
Ugh.
Come on now. Let's move on. It is what it is. Everybody is now going to have to suck it up and deal with it. You have three choices. You can get on the Trump train, you can stand and watch it go by, or you can lay down on the tracks. I, for one, am getting on it, and I'm going to ride it for as long as possible.
Another thing that got me really pumped up besides the Bible with the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and Constitution is Trump's 250th celebration of America, which I'm so excited about. Let's play that. It should get everyone pumped up.
Most important milestone in our country's history. And what a great country. We have to keep it that way. But that's why, as a nation, we should be preparing for a most spectacular birthday party. We want to make it the best of all time. Here is my plan to give America's founding truly deserves. On day one, I will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250. It will be responsible for coordinating with state and local governments to ensure not just one day of celebration, but an entire year of festivities across the nation, starting on Memorial Day 2025 and continuing through July 4th, 2026. Second, I will work with all 50 governors, Republican and Democrat alike, to create the Great American State Fair, a unique one-year exhibition featuring pavilions from all 50 states. The Great American State Fair will showcase the glory of every state in the Union, promote pride in our history, and put forth innovative visions for America's future. My hope is that the amazing people of Iowa will work with my administration to open up the legendary Iowa State Fairgrounds to host the Great American State Fair and welcome millions and millions of visitors from around the world to the heartland of America for this special one-time festival. Together we will build it and they will come. Third, alongside the Great American State Fair, we will host major sporting contests for high school athletes. These are great athletes, wonderful athletes from fantastic high schools all around the country. These Patriot Games will allow young Americans from every state to show off the best of American skills, sportsmanship, and competitive spirit. Fourth, I will sign an executive order to bring back our National Garden of American Heroes, which we want to build very badly. Commission artists for the first 100 statues to populate this new statuary park honoring the greatest Americans of all time. Fifth, as president, I will invite the leaders and citizens of nations around the world to visit the United States in honor of our 250th anniversary. It's going to be great. America's tourist industry should get ready because we're going to have a lot of people coming. It will be a record year. And finally, and most importantly, I will ask America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and our people as we prepare for this momentous occasion. From the very beginning, America has been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer and by our communities of faith. As we chart a course toward the next 250 years, let us come together and rededicate ourselves as one nation under God. Thank you.
I love that. If you don't have a renewed feeling and love for this country, there's something wrong with you.
I mean, how do you not get jazzed listening to him talk? Most spectacular birthday party. We will be, and they will come. His excitement makes me excited. Get the party hats and the party poppers ready, Americans, because it's gonna be great.
I love the part where he said about the high school athletes that are going to come out and show how hard they're working in their sports. Oh, that just reminded me of something. You did hear that there's no more biological men in women's sports anymore.
Can you see my happy dance? I know you can't see it, listeners. I'm doing it. No men in women's spaces, including sports. This is outstanding.
I was floored watching a biological male boxer compete against a female boxer. That was shocking. I don't understand how this can be allowed when we oppose domestic violence. I mean, domestic violence isn't just a man against a woman. It can go both ways. A man or a woman can harm each other, but it's contradictory to support men in women's sports and then condemn a man for domestic violence. The fight that I had seen, this man severely rearranged this woman's face. She ended up with like 2 black eyes, a puffed up split face. It was terrible. I can't comprehend the reasoning behind allowing these type of events. We'll dig deeper into these issues in future episodes, of course, but I just wanted to share how it connects to the culture of celebrating high school athletes for their prowess. I hope that it encourages more parents to get their kids out there, get into sports and extracurricular activities. I think Trump's lighting a fire under everyone's ass, along with RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard. They're just, it's like the Avenger team. Are you excited to see what they do with this office?
I will tell you, I couldn't be more excited. I love your reference to the Avengers because absolutely put on those superhero suits and let's go to work. Let's do it. And I do want to say big props to Riley Gaines.
Oh.
Without her and her voice, I don't know that people would have listened and heard what she was saying and where she was coming from. But going back to all of his picks, yes, let's light it up. I am ready to see what's going to happen. I have the popcorn and my Diet Coke ready to see what's going to unfold, Farrah.
Oh, shit. And JD Vance.
Love him. Love
What-
him, man.
He is an American through and through. I love this team. Trump sat there for these past years and brewed, if I do this again, I'm going to do it better. Because look, a day or two after he got elected, he started doing all of these Agenda 47 videos one by one. The hope for the next 4 years. What's one or two of the Agenda 47 that you look forward to in this next administration?
Oh, I have so many here. We touched
They're
on,
all-
they are. And they're all for the people, which is us. We are the people. In case any listeners out there are wondering, who are they talking about? We're talking about us, capital U, capital S. I want to make America affordable again. I want to stop outsourcing, defend our Constitution, seal the borders. And for me as a mother, the no federal funding of any schools pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. Let them be children. Let them be students. Let them be learners. Rebuild, make our cities safer and clean again. Deport Hamas radicals. Make our college campuses safe again. Bottom line here for me, Farrah, unite our people. Unite Americans in being an American again.
One of the Agenda 47 that I like is President Trump calls for the death penalty for human traffickers.
Amen. Amen.
We're going to face some hard truths like human trafficking, drug addiction, and various traumas. We're going to have professionals on that deal with human trafficking on a legal basis, investigative basis. So I'm excited to learn more to see what we can do to help. I've got a combat spy who's dealt with human trafficking coming on the show soon. And honestly, with everything going on, I feel like we're way too casual about human trafficking and drug dealing. I don't know, maybe I'm just fed up, but I really think we need to take a hard stance on this stuff when it comes to drug dealers, especially in 2025, with how much fentanyl is out there. You can't tell me these guys don't know exactly what they're doing when they're mixing their drugs. They know damn well that a tiny bit of fentanyl could kill someone. It's not like they're oblivious. I honestly think we need stronger penalties, maybe even a death penalty for those who are trafficking in these deadly substances. When it comes to people who come across the border, claim asylum, and then commit horrific crimes, I'm sorry, but if you come here and you're lying, you're not getting properly vetted, and then you go and murder or rape someone, I just don't think you deserve to be here. Like that case where those two immigrants killed that 12-year-old girl and threw her over a bridge. What is that? They were here for what, 2 weeks? And in that short time, they managed to do something unthinkable. You really expect me to believe they deserve to stay alive after that? I'm sorry, I don't think so. If anyone wants to come on and tell me why this view is too harsh, they're welcome to, but I'm just not seeing it. When you do something like that, you lose your right to live.
Where are the consequences? Where are the consequences and the accountability? Let's bring that back.
And I'm sorry, if you think they should just go life in prison, again, I'm not going to pay my taxpayer money for them to go and watch TV and lift weights and make buddies in prison. Now, if you want to deport them back to their country and put them back in their Venezuelan prison for life and they'll never get out, then fine, I'll deal with that. But if you're not going to do that, then it's going to be they're dead. That's it. No more, period. I might be harsh, but again, we're talking about a 12-year-old girl who did nothing to deserve this. And we were trying to be nice by letting them in. Hell, we even gave them money to get to where they needed to be to kill the girl. We helped them do that. So yeah, I would say that's the ones that I'm most really wanting, because I think with Trump in general is going to get the inflation better. I think that the Ukraine war is going to be stopped. We've already seen the Israel-Hamas deal getting put together. So I think with him being that face of strength and change, a lot of stuff that we both want change is just going to come. But we really need to work harsh with these because of the advocates that try to say, oh, we're racist if we just want to kill them. It's just enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Yes, I think many of the listeners out there, regardless again of which side they sit on, can agree enough is enough. We have to start putting Americans first.
And with that, let me say something before we wrap up the episode. Cheyenne, I am so glad that you're with me on this journey. We both might listen to this episode and find things we want to change. Listeners might be, you need to change this. Let us get our bearings for the first couple episodes. But I loved this episode. I think you and we vibed well, it came together, and I'm glad that you're on this ride or die journey with me. I just wanted to say that real quick.
I am honored, Farrah. I am honored. You are a good soul, and I am honored to take this journey with you. And I hope that many listeners will take this journey with us, whether they agree or they do not agree. Like Farrah said, we want to hear your voice.
Exactly. But that's a wrap on this episode of Social Disruption. But don't ghost us. Follow our chemtrails on social media at Social Disruption Pod on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and TikTok. Over on X at Raw Disruptor.
Spread the chaos. Share this show with your crew. Don't just keep it to yourself. Disrupt someone else's day.
Hell yeah. And we're booking guests who've got something to say, whether it's expertise or wild experiences in world news, entertainment, dating, addictions, mental health.
Or our Day in the Life segment. We want people who make the world tick. DoorDash drivers, plumbers, first responders, retail workers, restaurant, hairstylists. We're done with celebrity sob stories.
Let's hear from you, why you chose your path, what's broken, and what the world needs to know about your grind. So until next time, stay bold,
stay unapologetic,
stay disruptive.
Next time on Social Disruption, we sit down with Vegas's longest-running hypnotist, Kevin Lapine. From trauma to triumph, Kevin shares his raw and powerful journey of overcoming abuse, a gambling addiction, and loss to become the acclaimed headliner of Hypnosis Unleashed at the Four Queens Hotel. His story proves that our darkest moments don't define us, they can transform us. Through his memoir, Deep Into My Eyes, From Victim to Vegas Headliner, Kevin shows us how he turned pain into purpose, using hypnosis not just to entertain, but to heal. Join us for an honest conversation about resilience, recovery, and the power of the mind. That's next time on Social Disruption.
And before we go, a quick shout out to those who believe in truth, accountability, and free speech. We're looking for sponsors to help us grow into an unfiltered platform for real dialogue on world news, society, and culture. With your support, we can amplify voices, create a safe space for victims and survivors to share stories that inspire change and call out the wrongdoers who need to face the music. Email us at socialdisruptionpod@gmail.com. If you're ready to stand with us and back a raw, unapologetic mission, reach out. Let's disrupt together.